Welcome to Twisted Stories. I'm your host, Frank Davis. This is Season 2, Episode 9. Yes, the final episode of Season 2. Today's story is called Mashers and Muggers. Let's dive right in. Mashers and Muggers. A girl needs to learn only a few holds to deal with mashers and muggers, the speaker said with confidence to the auditorium filled with young women. She was a tall, blonde woman, and she moved across the stage like a lioness. Her muscles did not bulge, they rippled. Behind her hung a large American flag. There was a tarpaulin-covered wrestling mat on the stage floor. The woman, her name was Gail Vance, moved to the center of the mat. She stood there staring out at the sea of young women. Jiu-Jitsu is really just a sport, she said. But Judo is the science of dirty fighting, she began. Darkness fell over the auditorium as the house lights were dimmed. A floodlight high above the stage illuminated Gail Vance. I like to teach dirty fighting. It's the quickest way of disposing of your opponent. A man in dark clothing had entered the stage from behind Gail. The audience gasped in unison. Gail seemed not to have noticed the man. Gail looked as though she might burst into song. Instead, she burst into action. The man reached his misshapen left hand towards Gail. He entwined his fingers in her hair. She spun towards him using both her hands to smash his misshapen hand and trapping it where he held her. As she turned, she twisted the man's arm unnaturally, and he screamed in an unexpectedly high-pitched voice. Something fell from his other hand. It gleamed in the light and clinked metallically on the stage floor. The knife had missed the covered mat by several inches. Gail kicked the man's stomach, and then seemed to duck and spin under the arm she still held. The man was flipped over onto his back. He groaned. As I said, a girl needs only a few moves to deal with mashers and muggers. That was a mugger. Now for a masher. As she spoke, the first man had rolled off the mat into the shadows of the stage. When he had gone, the lights rose slightly, and the sound of a popular dance number played from a phonograph. At center stage, Gail smoothed her skirt and fixed her hair. A man entered the stage. He was tall and handsome and dressed as if for a night out on the town. His hair was slicked back and neatly parted in the middle. A thin, well-trimmed line of mustache traced his upper lip. The girls in the audience leaned forward in their seats. There was a movie star quality to this man. A pining voice from the audience said, "Oh, Frankie," and a wave of laughter rose and subsided. On the stage, the man appraised Gail and fixed his bow tie before confidently sauntering to where she stood. He circled her. All the while, his eyes conspicuously traveling up and down over her well-built physique. "Cigarette?" he asked her. "I don't smoke," she replied. "How about we dance?" he suggested. "I don't dance," she answered slightly, shifting her stance as he continued to circle her. How about a kiss, honey? He moved closer then and threw an arm over her shoulder while his other hand reached for her chin. She moved into him as if she had accepted his offer. Her right arm reached under his right arm, and she turned suddenly. The man was thrown over her shoulder and landed face up on the mat. The audience roared. Gail still held the man's right arm. She stepped across the arm in a most unladylike fashion and held it, suddenly straightening it against the outside of her thigh. The man screamed. Gail stood and looked out over the audience. "Oh, Frankie," the voice in the audience repeated. This time there was a sad and resigned note to the voice. The speaker had learned that you could not trust any man, even the good-looking ones. That's right, and that was a masher. The auditorium darkened again. When the lights came up, Gail was no longer dressed in the smart tweed skirt and blouse and leather shoes she had been wearing. She was now wearing a white Japanese Jujitsu gi with white trousers, which ended at her calves. A black belt held the jacket closed. The same two men from before entered the stage. They were dressed the same as Gail. Instead of attacking her, they bowed. The larger man's right arm, the one who had been the mugger, was now wrapped in a bandage from wrist to elbow. Gail returned their bow with one of her own, and then turned to face the audience. She gestured towards the man's bandaged arm and said, "I guess I put on a little too much pressure," said Gail. "But he should have told me. I was hurting him." Thank you for listening to this episode of the Twisted Stories podcast. This has been episode 9, the finale of season 2. If you'd like the show, please follow us, give us a like, give us a review, and tell a friend. And until next time, stay twisted.